Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week of After Service featuring Pastor Brian Ricketts.
And Joe Brookhouse.
I just figured
we are matching today.
Well, you're wearing I guess it almost looks like I have a collar because of the way my headset works, but I don't have a collar.
It's a black shirt.
It is. This is the post-lacrosse wear.
Okay.
This is because I got done with lacrosse, picked up the pizza, ate half of the pizza in about 10 minutes. I will be sick. The kids are in the other room watching Godzilla. So, I don't know. Do you remember Godzilla as a kid? That being like your favorite?
Oh, yes.
That was your babysitter?
Oh, yes. I like that. That was fun.
Yeah. So we're watching King of Monsters to get ready for Godzilla vs. Kong, which was released today.
There are some movies to watch with the boys. Maybe I could go all the way back and watch one of the original Godzillas.
Yeah, because the sound. There are a couple movies I think of like where the sound of the monster movies from either the 50s or the 60s defines them, and Godzilla's. You can hear it.
Yeah, you can hear it in your head, can't you?
Oh yeah, I thought you could literally hear it because it's in the kids
No, but you can just close your eyes and go. I know that unique sound of Godzilla's roar.
Now, how about the theme music from Monster from the Black Lagoon, or is it Creature from the Black Lagoon? Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Creature.
Bum 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 bum.
Yep.
Yeah. So that movie always creeped me out, but it was something kind of fascinating about some guy in a rubber suit coming out of the swamp.
And they're not scary. They're not scary.
No, I mean, they were scary then because... But now you look at it and go, oh. Well,
the guy in a costume.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Fair enough.
How's your family? How's Vanessa and your in-laws? And if there's anything you feel like you could share?
Well, I think things are okay. There's a normalization period when you have kind of a shake-up. So Vanessa's been taking her parents to, hey, Jen Clark, good to see you online. Anyway, when there's kind of a shake-up in your system. Oh, hey, Teresa, is she on there too? Cool. Hello. Yep. All right. Sorry, the names pop up. I figure we should say hi because we can. But yeah, Alice, Vanessa's mom, is finishing up radiation therapy. She's got probably another week and a half of it, and she's miserable and she's sick and she's tired. But Vanessa's there helping. And then Keith had surgery over the weekend so they could stitch his chest back together. And so Vanessa's just been really busy hauling him around. And after kind of that initial period, things are settling in. She's got her TV set up so that she can watch shows that she wants to watch instead of 24-hour angry news stuff.
That's healthy.
Yeah. we just finished with that, so we don't need to start it again.
Yeah.
But no, thanks for asking. No, it's going okay. And then Sam and I are kind of acclimating to which means that there's a lot of, what do you want for dinner? What do you want for dinner?
Pizza.
Leftover pizza? Sounds good. Yeah. Not that we can't cook, but when you're cooking for 1.5, it hardly seems worth the effort. So, yeah. Well, anyway, how are you guys doing?
Well, it'll be news to some people, but I actually went to the ER on Monday for heart issues.
Oh, wow. No, that is.
No.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
It has not been part of our recent exchanges.
No. Yeah, Sunday I was feeling tightness in the chest. And for a while I've had a little pain in the arm. So I called the advice nurse and they said, yeah, just go. just to make sure. I went there. I didn't have a heart attack, but they want me to talk to a cardiologist just to be sure.
Yeah.
A couple of years ago when they did blood tests, my, what is it? The word, the bad stuff for heart attacks. I can't just, the word escapes me, was high. So
right.
Whatever that, what is that word? The word that if it's high in your blood, that can cause
cholesterol,
clogged arteries. What?
You talking about cholesterol?
Cholesterol.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
Cholesterol was a little high a couple of years ago. So,
right.
And I haven't checked this year. So, anyways, that was Monday.
But you're okay.
I seem to be okay. The tightness is there a little bit, but I don't know.
Blood
I'm
pressure?
Not dead yet.
Maybe blood pressure.
It started before Sunday. It started just after church. So.
What happened after church? It's Justin's fault. It's Justin's fault.
Yeah, it's always Justin's fault.
Yeah. Well, you got to have somebody to blame, and I think that he's as good as anybody.
Yeah, and he just laughed and said, "Sure."
Well, let's. We've been on for a few minutes. We haven't chatted at all about the service, so, and which is a shame because this, as I mentioned on Sunday, and you've heard me say any number of times, this is really one of my favorite scriptures in all the Gospels, and just I adore it, and just for the sake of bringing people up to speed, if they didn't get a chance to listen to the service, since we had some technical issues on Sunday. It's available now, but it was not available online when it was recorded. Mark 5, and I'm trying to remember the actual verses.
25 through 34.
There we go.
And it's the story of the woman who bled for 12 years. Jesus is in the middle of going to see Jairus' daughter, who's dying. Actually, as I'll say Sunday, she's dead. But he doesn't know that.
Right.
And is interrupted by this woman who sneaks up behind Jesus and steals a heel from him. And he stops and confronts her and forces her into the limelight and tells her daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. And that's basically the story.
Yeah. And it's, I think you mentioned on Sunday, this is the middle of a Markan sandwich, Markan, as in
right,
related to Mark. I think this is one of the first sermons that I did was on this scripture.
I don't remember that.
You don't, or you do?
I don't.
Oh yeah, no, this is one I did early. In fact, this is when I taught this, it was the first time that I played, it's when I introduced Love is a Hammer, was on this Sunday. And of course, but it's such a wonderful story. I'm like, oh, I get to hear it again. I don't have to teach it this time. And you touched on points that I didn't, because I think there's always new information that's coming to light as we have better understanding. And I think sorry, there was a little circular thing coming back in my ear.
I think it's my system flow. Am I back on?
Oh, you're crackling a tiny bit. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, because my system is saying I don't have enough memory or something. But I should be okay now, right?
Yeah, you seem all right now. Yep.
Okay,
yeah.
Great.
Anyway, the commentary.
So, new points.
Right. The commentary that I drew from is an older commentary, as in about 15 or 16 years old. And there's been a lot of stuff that's come to light since then. There's clarifications and some things like that. And these stories are so rich that, one of the things you taught me early is that you have to decide what you're going to throw away. Not because it's not important, but because you have to focus on what the one thing is that you're trying to communicate. There will be other opportunities to address those other topics. So, and I think we both addressed the topic of shame, because to me, there's so much about this is about shame. And for me, a lot of it is about loneliness, which we've talked a little bit about. But I'm interested kind of in how really Jesus approached her and the dynamic of knowing that she wanted to be healed, that he brought her into the light, though she didn't want to be in the light. And to me, that's a really interesting, because, I mean, Ross King, who wrote Love is a Hammer and speaks very specifically to this song, talks about shame and how she felt shame, and you want to hide. And he didn't shame her. He raised her up. That to me was remarkable, how he bestowed upon her a title that made her family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a remarkable moment when he, because that was one of the two questions I asked. Well, actually, I asked three. Why did he stop? Because he didn't have to stop, and it was because he wanted to affirm her faith. He wanted to bless her. He wanted to bring her out into the light, to fully heal her of stuff. She was healed physically, but he was concerned at a much more deeper level about her emotionally and the shame that she felt. And so do you think she was afraid when he called her, because she was afraid he was going to shame her? Why do you think she was afraid?
Well, gosh, there could be any number of reasons. I mean, it's so complex, the culture. The fact that she would dare to touch somebody holy, to touch a rabbi. She'd heard stories. She heard about miracles. She was desperate. She hoped she could maybe get some, flyby healing. And the fact that he stopped, and here's a man people are very interested in. And if it was anybody else but Jesus, she could have been certainly shamed, maybe stoned. I mean, punished in some way.
Ridiculed at least.
Yeah. Gosh, that level of desperation to say, I'll risk that exposure because I'm so tired of being by myself. Yes. I'm in pain. I have no money. No family, really. I mean, that's spoken of. No husband.
Probably wouldn't have had a husband.
Yeah. I think you mentioned that he would have divorced her.
Yeah, it was pretty easy at that point to divorce.
Yeah.
And why would you want a wife that you can't touch?
Yeah.
I know that sounds cruel, but back then, why would you want a wife that you can't touch?
Yeah.
So.
And who? She can't really do anything. I mean, she can stay at home.
No, she can't work.
Yeah.
She can't work. She can't do anything. Nothing.
Yeah. No, it's
devastating.
And it's an amazing resolution to a tragic story, that, it kind of goes back to our conversations in previous weeks about when you know the ending, you don't have to be so anxious in the midst of the story. But this is a story that was, I mean, it's like a, Lamentations or something. No, not Lamentations. What am I thinking of? Solomon.
I need a little bit more info.
I'm just talking. There's Solomon's kind of opposite of the Psalms, where everything is depressing. Is that
Ecclesiastes?
Ecclesiastes, yeah. And it's like, this stinks. This stinks. This stinks. This stinks. It's just terrible for you. It's like, wow. Do I want to watch this movie where nothing happy happens, and then all of a sudden the sun comes out and things are restored? Okay, here's a question for you. It just dawned on me, and forgive me for just throwing it out there, but we've seen how people have responded to being healed by Jesus and how the culture around them has responded to them being healed by Jesus. What do you think happened when Jesus left and this woman had been restored, and she was this person, this woman who had bled for 12 years? Do you have any thoughts on that?
What I have is what I hope happened.
Yeah.
I hope that there was joy. I don't know that there would have been, but I would hope that there was joy by at least some people in the crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's, that story of the man, with the pigs from last week, really wrapped it up last week with where he wasn't necessarily embraced by that culture, but that was also a very different culture
Yeah.
than where they were at this point. So I'm kind of working it out in my own brain as as I'm
And
talking.
maybe there were some people back in the town that were not the herdsmen that didn't come out that were happy for that man. Maybe. But yeah, yeah, we don't know. I'd like to think that there were people who were happy for her, you know,
When
but I
you
know that's not the case often.
when you read this story, and I think it can change for each of us, is there a particular party in this that you relate to?
That gets, I think I'll say yes, but it gets to the question I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
It was, and you partially answered it, is why is this one of your favorites? And I know it is for a lot of other people. It just doesn't resonate with me like it does all of you.
Oh,
I don't
okay.
know why. It just doesn't. It's like, yeah, it's a good story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'd say Jarius.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What are you doing, Jesus? I got an issue here.
Yeah.
I could see being that person.
Well, I just want to affirm you saying that because I think a lot of people wouldn't say that, but I think a lot of us really do probably relate more closely to him. Like I have something very personal and vital that we need to address right now, and God, I don't understand why your attention is elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say there's really two things that connect me to this story. It is one, the topic of loneliness. There's something about people who have been left to themselves that have no opportunity to connect with other people, and just how desperate that feels. And I'm an introvert, but I still need to connect with people. Honestly, there was a period of time in my early 20s where I lived by myself and I didn't get an opportunity to interact with people, and it was really hard. I felt isolated. My family really didn't have a lot of interest in hanging out with me. My friends were like, "You are such a downer. I don't want to be around you." And I really wanted somebody to care enough about me to engage with me and pull me out. Sometimes we know that we need to get out. We probably are capable of pulling ourselves out, but we're like, you know what? It's kind of comfortable here doing crossword puzzles and just being by myself. So I kind of relate to that idea of, for people who don't know, it was about when I was 25. I was divorced already. I had a daughter. My car didn't run. I had a lousy job. There was just a lot of things that weren't going well, and where I lived was nowhere close to anybody that I could hang out with. And it felt like, you know what? I'm a loser. I'm probably where I should be.
Mm.
And so I definitely relate to that idea of loneliness and isolation. Even the idea that in some ways it's self-imposed. I wouldn't say that hers was. I think culture really told her that. But for me, I think I allowed what I believed people thought about me to define how I engaged in that. And the other part is just I love when I see, the widows and orphans and those that are lesser being elevated, because if you want to get me to cry, show me where children are ignored, or where people are left to suffer. And the things that fill my heart the most are when I see those people being lifted up into circumstances that are certainly more appropriate. So I get that those are things I'm very. That's a topic, that elevation of people that really, really touches me, and so I see both of those
I
those
see
ideas.
that in you.
Yeah,
You really care about people and lifting them up. That's definitely a trait of yours.
I don't
So
know, well, not always, but
we're all that way sometimes.
yeah, Yeah, so I mean that's why it really resonates with me. And the first time I heard it taught in a way where I listened, the loneliness part was what really connected with me. And
Okay.
I'm interested for those people that are watching, if there's a particular element, if you guys want to leave a note for us on Facebook or YouTube, since I know you're out there, a couple
Why
of
does it
words.
speak to you?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
does it speak to you? Give us a couple of words, and we'll respond because I can see them kind of popping up
Yeah.
on my screen.
One of the things I wanted to kind of think about a little bit, and I'm sorry, I'm monopolizing a little bit because I know this mattered so much to you too, I'm always interested in this idea of people feeling unworthy and shamed and dirty, not because they've sinned, but because of something done to them.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know, and that they really, like in this case, this woman she's treated as if she's a sinner, a horrible person, but she had no control over this. And so I'm thinking about, with women who are raped or people who've been abused, and they can just feel like, yes, Jesus forgives me, but I'm still a pile of poop.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's. I think there's a part of us that, as we process people's circumstances, where it's easier to imagine that a person is in difficult situation because of something they've done. That idea where your circumstances in life are dictated by your past decisions, by that you might not be there because of unfortunate circumstances. You probably did something to deserve it. I think it's easier to look at folks' circumstances that way than it is to go, wow, they're in a tough spot. I should maybe help them. Or,
The convenient answer, isn't it?
yeah,
The convenient out to just go, oh, well, that's a nice, neat solution. This is why it is. They deserve it. They are earning what they've done.
right. Yeah,
I don't have to do anything because this is God dealing with them.
yeah. And I think to me, that's kind of an old school thought. And by old school, I mean like more than 2,000 years old.
Oh, yeah.
I have a note from Jen. I'm just going to read. Old habits die hard, question, and it is comfortable and I can control the future.
Hmm.
Okay. I wonder if that's
Habits
a
of
little,
thinking badly about yourself. I can see that. I could see the woman continuing to think, yes, Jesus said this, but I'm still struggling with shame.
yeah. Well, and not to get into brain science or anything, but there's a guy named Daniel Siegel who's done a lot of research on the physiology of the brain, and there's actually pathways that are created in your brain that try to reinforce thinking. And so if you've been suppressed for a long time, even if you're elevated, you may fall back to that posture of, I am not worthy. Ross speaks in the song, I've worn these chains for so long that they feel natural.
Right.
That it feels natural to be in that position. And it really takes a lot of sustained effort and support from other people to come out from that. People ask, why do people fall back into these bad habits? It's because they've been wired that way. And you can't just say, here, you're fixed, go, unless you're Jesus,
Yeah. I mean, who knows? Maybe it's very possible that he just go in peace and he zapped her brain and rewired her.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yeah.
Because he tends to, I'm being sarcastic. But when I say he tends to get what he commands,
Yeah.
as we'll see in the next story. Little girl get up, and she does.
Yeah.
Pretty much every time in the Gospels when Jesus says something, it doesn't say it, but he commands it, it happens.
I
can't think of a time that he doesn't.
When's the story of Lazarus come up? That's coming up soon, isn't it?
That's actually in John.
Oh, he's not. Okay, never mind.
I don't think it's in Mark, but it is in John 11.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm thinking about I'm thinking about his sadness at knowing that he can raise him from the dead, but still feeling that sadness, recognizing that the loss has still occurred. People are still mourning. He is empathetic to the nth degree. Like, I know how you feel, this is the way that it had to happen.
Right.
And, in that respect, you look at the story of this woman who's been bleeding, and you see an opportunity to glorify his Father. Amongst a crowd, elevating somebody and saying, just because you're not in a position of power or authority, I still care enough to elevate you. Love that. Love that.
With an imperfect faith, which I found very interesting that some of the people I was looking at brought up, that it really is a very flawed faith, and yet he honored it. And I feel like we sometimes struggle with the idea that we have to do it right, just right. We have to understand everything right. We have to get our act together, or Jesus still doesn't love us. And he's like, she really didn't get a lot of things right, and yet she still is blessed. I think that's remarkable.
I think that's a topic that you could explore ad nauseum. That whole idea of, because it's very complex, that we'd really like things to line up in a certain way. Those of us who believe that we've made it, I'll put that in quotes, and somebody who's new in their faith, or, it's that whole sloppy wet kiss idea that, hey, the affection, the love, the intent is all good, and the delivery system is gross, or it's not really the way that we would want it to be, or whatever. And, I think that there's grace to be given for people with imperfect faith, and encouragement to continue to grow.
Right. Well said. Well said. Because, this is not an excuse or a license, that's the right word, to not grow deeper in your faith and to understand more, and, as Paul would put it, to mature in your faith. And so, you just read some of the things in it, like Ephesians. He wants you to understand your faith and to grow in it, because it'll help you understand what's happening, and you'll grow deeper, and you'll fall more in love with Jesus. So, don't be stagnant, but at the same time, don't beat yourself up, and don't get all worried if you don't have it just right.
Right. Don't let the ideal get in the way of engagement.
Because the simplicity is, he turned to Jesus. She turned. It was all she had. It was all, no one can help me, but he can. He can do it.
Now, here's a quote from Bob Pitzer, who just commented for us. He didn't come for the perfect, but for the flawed.
Oh yeah, that's He practically says that. That it's not the what was it? It's not the righteous that requires a doctor, but the sick.
Yeah. Another one of my, it's another great one for Mark. That's the scraps under the table. And
is that in Mark?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There was an atheist that made a big thing about how Jesus is racist. I'm looking forward to talking about that one, because he calls the woman a dog. That'll be an interesting time.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure there's some cultural perspective there that is lost on somebody who reads it at a surface level.
Yes.
Oh, here's a note from Terry real quick. This showed me how accessible Jesus is. Be humble. Thank you, Terry.
Yeah. That sense of being humble, that Jesus will stop everything for you. That is something that really affected me, was the whole, he ignores the crowd who's like, what are you doing? And the disciples and the other Christians complaining. And he goes, no, I want to pay attention to that individual right there. Wow. That matters to me. That spoke to me a lot.
Yeah.
And of course he does that for everybody, but because he's God, he can do that. But amazing.
If you think about it in the way that your own personal salvation and how personal your own testimony is. People don't understand the details necessarily, but the thing that connects you very personally to him, you were that woman at one point in some circumstance there. Even if you were, you gave, your faith started early, you did something since that time that you needed to come back. And he's
Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, no, that's all right.
Like, for instance, when I first got saved, I really believed that if I squeeze my eyes tighter, then Jesus will listen to me.
Like, oh yeah. How old were you? 6, 7?
No,
Oh,
I was
30.
I was like 13.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I knew nothing.
See,
Like,
I believe that if I prayed enough, that there would be presence at the bottom of the bed when I woke up in the morning, and that was yesterday. That was when I was like 6. I thought, oh, I wonder if he can do anything. We have so Lynn says, "Good evening." Hi, Lynn. Yeah.
Hi, Lynn. Good to see you. Good to hear from you there. But one of the imperfect faith pieces is being just what you said. Don't settle for it. But at the same time, some of us who really, in a sense, feel like we got our doctrine down. Let's be a little bit more okay, or not so hard and fast with people in, let's say, in near Christian faiths, such as, I think it's possible that some people who are Jehovah Witnesses, and I know that's going to freak people out, or people who are in the Catholic Church who, like, they don't know much, but they know they want Jesus, and he's the only one that can fix them. Is it possible? Yeah. I mean, obviously there are things I have theological problems that I don't think they line up with the Bible on in these places, but
imperfect faith. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way,
because there's a lot of people I've talked to, and you have too, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Where you say, "Yeah, I'm a Mormon," and then you ask them, what do they actually believe? And it's not what the Mormon Church believes.
Yeah. Well, we put people in these boxes based on our own preconceptions, our own experience, and and I, of course, I tend, as a stubborn person, to reject anybody trying to shove me in a box. So, that's why I go to a community church. So, by the way, by Lynn is actually Fauna. So, hi, Fauna. Thank you.
Fauna. Yes.
Thank you for helping us with that. I looked at that and I went, I feel like I should know that.
There's 2 Lyns. There's also Lynn Gaffney.
Well, that's what I thought, but I saw Lynn Kay, and I'm like, well, that's not Lynn Gaffney. Yes. So you thought Lynn Gaffney, which is what I thought until I went, nope, that's a K. But anyway.
Well, hello.
And Fawn, it's good to see you, and we're wrapping up now. So I hope you weren't late, because we'd have to shame you, and then that's really not what we're about here. So, well, we should wrap up, because I have to go eat the chicken wings that I bought in addition to the pizza, because and then I'm getting up at 4 for a 4:30 a.m. meeting tomorrow.
Oh, exciting!
Yeah, so
I will see you on Friday for the Good Friday service, right?
That's correct. Yep. And wait, real quick from Bob: Jesus shows compassion. He touches the unclean. He moves toward them. I love that. Yeah, I love that too, Bob. That's great.
Yes, me too.
And by the way, guys, thank you so much for interacting with us tonight, because it really, we can talk to each other all night, but it's good to have interaction with y'all. Any comments that come after this moment, I will not respond to, because we have to wrap up. And so what time would you like me there on Sunday? I know the service starts at 7.
Sunday.
Friday.
Oh, Friday, 6, if possible.
Sure. And folks, the service starts at 7. It'll be it's a Good Friday service, a relatively brief service, but I think it's a really meaningful service as we're preparing for the celebration of Easter by acknowledging his death.
Yep, it'll be a good service, and then of course Easter's coming too. Invite your friends.
Yeah. If not in person, then online, and we hopefully we will be online. No problems.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, all right.
All right, take care, everybody. We'll see you later.
Have a good night, folks.